Hello, my name is Joshua Mugabe. I welcome you to Water and Mineral Salts. What is the approximate percentage in mass of water in the human body? Is this percentage expected to be larger in adults or in older individuals? Approximately 65% of human individual mass is water. The brain, for example, has around 90% of water in mass. The muscles, they have around 85%. The bones have between 25 and 40% of water. Young adult individuals have approximately more water in mass than older individuals. What are the main biological functions of water? Water is a fundamental solvent for the chemical reactions of living beings. It is the main means of substrate transportation in the cell and between the cells and the tissues. It is responsible for the maintenance of adequate temperature for the functioning of the organism. Water is also the reagent and the product of many biochemical reactions like photosynthesis, cellular respiration, peptide bonds for protein formation. Water has a key participation in organic reactions. What example of two types of organic reactions in which water is respectively incorporated or liberated in the products of these reactions? Photosynthesis is a biochemical process in which water is incorporated into the organic molecule. In the reaction, hydrogen atoms from water go to produce glucose, and oxygen atoms from water form the molecular oxygen liberated. So carbon dioxide plus water in the presence of sunlight energy, we get glucose plus the molecular oxygen. Aerobic respiration is another example of a biochemical reaction in which water is produced. Glucose is converted by molecular oxygen and we get carbon dioxide and water. Is water a polar or a non-polar molecule? What is the consequence of that characteristic for the function of water as a solvent? Water is made up of two atoms of hydrogen attached by a covalent bond with one central atom of oxygen, making an angular spatial structure. Hydrogen atoms, they lend electrons to the oxygen, and consequently this atom becomes more negative while hydrogen becomes more positive. The spatial geometry of the water molecule makes it a polar molecule with a negative and positive pole. Polarity is one of the water's properties. Water is an excellent solvent for polar substances because of the electrical activity, that is the attraction and repulsion of each pole helps the separation and the mixing of these substances, giving them more movement and thus increasing the number of molecular collisions and the spread of the chemical reactions. On the other hand, water is not a good solvent for the non-polar substances. What kind of polarity do water-soluble and fat-soluble substances respectively have? Water-soluble substances are polar molecules. That is to say, they have electrically charged areas. These molecules get the description water-soluble because they are soluble in water. A polar molecule too. Fat-soluble substances, they are non-polar molecules. That is, they are electrically neutral. They get the description fat-soluble because they dissolve in other non-polar substances. What is the importance of water for enzymatic activity? Enzymes, biological catalysts, they depend on water to reach the substrate and bind to them. There is no enzymatic activity without water. In addition, the enzymes depend on adequate pH intervals to work. The pH is a consequence of the liberation of hydrogen ions and hydroxyl ions by the acids and bases in water solution. Can the heat capacity of water be considered small or large? What is the biological significance of that characteristic? From thermology, it is known that the quantity of exchanged heat, Q, is equal to the mass multiplied by the specific heat of the substance, multiplied by the variation of temperature. Meaning, Q is equal to mc change in temperature. And that heat capacity is Q divided by T. Hence, MC, heat capacity, however, relates to the specific body since it considers the mass, whereas specific heat relates to the general substance. Therefore, it is more correct to refer to specific heat in this problem. Water has a specific heat of 1 Carol per gram centimeters, which means that 1 degree per gram is changed in its temperature with addition or subtraction of 1 Carol of energy. This is a very elevated value. For example, the specific heat of ethanol is 0.58 calories per gram. For mercury, a metal has the specific heat of 0.0033 calories per gram. Water, an excellent thermal protector against variation of temperature. Even if certain external temperature changes occur, the internal biological conditions are kept constant in an organism which contains enough water. High specific heat is one of the most important water properties. What are the main water properties that makes water special for life? The water properties that makes water biologically important are molecular polarity, thermal stability, that is elevated specific heat, fusion, and bullition point that allows water to be liquid in most environments. Acid-base neutrality, small molecular size, and low chemical reactivity compared to other substances like ethanol and hydrogen sulfide. What are ions? What are the two types of molecules into which ions are classified? Ions, these are atoms or substances electrically charged by means of loss or gain of electrons. The two types of ions are the cations and the anions. Cations are ions with a positive total electrical charge. Anions, these are ions with a negative total electrical charge. Which are the main positive ions found in living beings? The main cations found in living beings are sodium cations, potassium cations, calcium cations, iron cations, the magnesium cations, the zinc cations, and the manganese cations. The main anions found in living beings are chloride ions, phosphate ions, bicarbonate ions, nitrate ions, and sulfate ions. How do mineral salts participate in osmotic regulation? Osmotic pressure depends on the number of particles dissolved in a solution and not on the nature of such particles. Mineral salts, glucose, proteins, and urea are the main regulating particles for the osmolality of the organism. These molecules, along with other particles inside and outside the cell, generate the larger osmolar osmotic gradient between the extracellular and the intracellular space. What is the role of mineral salts in creation of electric tension, voltage, at the cellular level? The electrical activity of the cell, for example, in the neurons, depends on the different concentration of the positive and negative ions between the inner and the outer surface of the cell membrane. Mineral salts are responsible for that voltage. The cell membrane of a non-excited cell has commonly the negative inner side and a positive outer side. This electrical situation is maintained by ion transport across the membrane. Why is pH regulation important for living beings? How do mineral salts participate in this regulation? The potential of hydrogen is the measure of the amount of hydrogen ions in a solution. Regulation of the pH according to the necessity of each organ and tissue is extremely important for the organism, since enzymes act only under some pH ranges, and many proteins are only active under some pH ranges. Therefore, biochemical reactions depend on the correct level of the pH to occur. Neutral pH is one of the water properties. How do mineral salts participate in enzymatic activity? Many mineral salts are cofactors of enzymes. That is, they are substances without which the enzymes do not work. What are the main biological processes in which calcium participates? Calcium is present in almost all cells and has several functions. Calcium has an important role in the muscular contraction, in the blood coagulation process, in the structure of the bone tissue, in the teeth, in the motility of the sperm cell flagellum, and in the nervous transmission. What is hemoglobin? What is the inorganic element that is fundamental in the composition of hemoglobin? Hemoglobin is the protein present in the blood, responsible for the transportation of oxygen from the lungs to the tissue and cells. The hemoglobin molecule is composed of 4 protein chains, each with a heme group containing iron atoms. Iron is responsible for binding of oxygen in the lungs and also for the red color of hemoglobin and thus the blood. What is the importance of magnesium for plants? What are the other main biological functions of magnesium? Magnesium is fundamentally important for plants because it is part of the chlorophyll molecule. And we know that chlorophyll is essential for photosynthesis. Magnesium also acts as a cofactor of several enzymes, and it is important in muscle relaxation for the nervous transmission. What is phosphorylation? What are some biological processes in which phosphorylation plays an active critical role? Phosphorylation is the name given to the process of the addition of a phosphate to some molecules, thus making them molecules more energized. Phosphorylation has an important role, for example, in photosynthesis. The photophosphorylation of the light phase, and in aerobic respiration, oxidative phosphorylation of the respiratory chain. In general, phosphates used in phosphorylation comes from ATP molecules. Why is iodine important for human beings? Iodine is a fundamental chemical element for the proper functioning of the thyroid, since it is part of the hormone produced in this gland. Iodine deficiency creates a kind of hypothyroidism, a disease known as endemic goiter. What is the main biological function in which chroline ions participate? Like sodium cation, chrolyl anion actively participates in the regulation of the osmolality of tissues and cells. By crossing the cell membrane and avoiding entrance of water in the cell or excessive loss of water from the cell. Chroline ions have an important role for the acid-base balance in the organism, since it participates along with bicarbonate ions in the pH buffer system of the body. Another function of chroline is the digestive physiology. Inside the gastric lumen, hydrochloric acid secreted by the stomach cell wall ionizes itself into hydrogen and chloride ions, lowering the pH of the gastric juice, and then permitting enzymatic digestion to take place. Thank you very much for participating in water and mineral salts. Please do like, share, and subscribe.